Hello guys, welcome back. I'm not crying, you're crying. Okay, I'm crying. I'll get better, I promise. Odin made me cry. You guys know I was vegan for a while, and that kind of sort of has to do with this story. You know I love wolves. Wolves my totem, and I love wolves. Oh my god, I serve the Allfather. I'm crazy about wolves. And I've always been crazy about wolves since I was a little dot. And keep in mind, as I tell you this story, I grew up in hunting and trapping country. I know what it's like for people to have to depend on animals. But I also know that responsible hunters and trappers kill an animal quick. The idea is not to make the animal suffer. In fact, a good trapper is going to get out there as quick as possible because they don't want the animal to ruin its coat. You might not like wearing fur. I don't personally wear fur, but it's in their best interest to end the animal suffering as cleanly and as fast as possible. Well, as I'm watching these wolf specials, Canadian wolf specials came out, and long story short, I now live in Ontario. Um, the guy was like that did these specials to show you what these trap lines are like and to show you how long they're taking to kill these animals because these animals aren't just dying really quick; they're taking days to weeks to die. It was horrible, and they showed footage of, the animals dying, and I went through all these conflicts of emotion. I'm like, well, it's really not my place to tell people whether they can wear fur or not. It's not my place to tell somebody if they can have a livelihood or not. But also, I grew up in hunting and trapping community, and you make it quick. If you want to kill something, if you want that fur so bad, you have a responsibility to kill that animal as quickly and painlessly as possible. People around here actually hated snares. They had the traps designed that was it. That was the end of the animal. And the guy says, you can sign these petitions even if you're not from Canada, because especially if you're from like somewhere else and you're a tourist, they want you to sign it. Plus, he said, if you don't care about the wolves, think about the other animals that are suffering because bears are eating the poison and other animals are getting caught in the trap, and now they're finding, since they can set them out anywhere, and they do it in this area too. They set out traps in the woods and that. But those are leg traps, which are even more fun. Like the bear style traps. If you step on one of those, you're gonna have a great day. Animals are starting to get caught, like doggies and everything, because they take doggy to the park, let doggy run in the woods, and the next thing you know, the dog's screaming, and the dog's trapped in this trap line. So I went and I signed, because the guy's like, please, even if you're not from Canada, please just sign this, because especially if you're a tourist. I went and I signed it, and I was like, good for me. I now live in Ontario, and they can dismiss my signature all they want, but I'm like, to me, I'm not gonna judge somebody for wearing fur. It will make me cry. But I'm not going to judge them for wearing fur. And Odin was really pestering me. He's like, oh, you're just going to walk away from that wolf. And I'm like already crying buckets because they showed you the wolf. And I'm like, it's not my place to tell people. And blah, blah, blah. And like, I'm going through all this conflict of emotion because I'm thinking about when I was vegan. And they would say, well, if you don't like wearing fur, you shouldn't eat meat, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, just crying buckets. And that's a unfair tactic, by the way, to bully people out of eating meat just because they won't wear fur. You can be a totally decent human being and eat a hamburger. It's not, you're not sitting here, ha ha ha, this animal suffered so I can eat it. No, I came from a farming community. You make it quick and then you can eat it. Um, and he's needling me. And the perceived conception we all have of the Allfather, that he's this badass warrior and he has no heart and he doesn't care, and some of his names apparently mean wolf killer or foe of the wolf or something else, which doesn't make any sense because he's freaking Gary, but whatever. Like, what did he do? Take them hostage? But he was needling me and actually being cruel. He flipped from the real nice gentle Odin I've had to, like, the cruel, really vicious, and he's like, oh, so you're going to turn your back on the wolves. Do you love your totem or not? And I'm like in buckets of tears, and I'm crying and I'm crying and I'm crying. And he says, oh, I want to see where your ethics are. I want to see where your ethics are. Do you really care about the animals? And do you really care about needless suffering? Because this wasn't actually about the issue of people wearing fur or people trapping animals. It was about the animals suffering. He says, if you really care, you're going to go sign that. But if not, you go ahead, walk away from the wolf, and I'll know the kind of person you are. And I'm like crying. I'm still crying because he can be really mean when he wants to be. So I went and I signed, and then he's like, "Thank you." And I'm like, "You could have just told me that you wanted me to sign." He's like, "No, I wanted it to be your ethical decision to go sign something. And I didn't want you to do it because somebody made you feel bad or because you think I wanted it. And I didn't want you to not sign because you thought, oh, he doesn't care about animals. He won't want me to sign that." And we now today in our society see compassion as weakness. So he actually did not want me to see either kind of input from him. He wanted to shove at me and poke at me with a spear until I did something. But in much happier news, we've been working on the temples, as I told you guys. I made him a set of hand-cut runes. Long story short, I was looking at runes, and I was looking at a bowl of runes put into the cyber temple. And it was a beautiful set. It really was. The only problem is the bowl would look kind of okay, but since runes are three-dimensional products, you would look at it from above and you would just know that's a flat picture. And I thought, oh, that rune set that I saw, I'll go see how many of the runes he has. And maybe it won't be a complete set, but it'll have something. And one of the gods, I think it was Freyr, thank you so much, my lord, for making the extra work, said, you can make a rune set. I said, to do that, I would have to find a blank piece of wood, and then I'd, image, and then I would have to hand draw the runes. So I did this, all the runes. And then as I went to make them into a 3D object, something went wrong. All the black disappeared, so all the careful runes that I had put on them disappeared, and that was cut out. It was like I had cut all the runes out of all these circles of wood, and I was ready to cry. And Loki goes, oh, keep that, keep that. So he has a set of cut out runes, which if you know the runes, some of them, like, it wouldn't exist in our reality because you can't just cut out a thing and have the inner piece just hang there in space, but it works in VR. So I made a rune set, and we made wolf chocolates today. I found wolf chocolate heads, and I was able to make that. So we made wolf chocolates. So there was a lot of good today. I know that sounds cruel on Odin's part, but he was forcing me to face that, there are ways that if you care about animals or you care about, humanely harvesting animals, I hate to use that term, but that's what hunters use because they don't want to say I go out and shoot something. And guys, I grew up in a farming community. I would totally eat deer or rabbit meat. I'm not against hunters, so don't get your dander up. But there's a difference between humanely and ethically taking an animal's life and making the poor thing suffer and getting joy out of it, or just not giving a shit. So that's why I signed. It wasn't like, oh, you're all bad people. It was, no animal should have to suffer through that. There are certain animals on this planet I really don't actually care for. There are just one or two species I don't care for, and we all know this. I wouldn't let them suffer like that. I would think I was cruel and inhumane, and I would still have compassion for them, even though I've had negative experiences with a few animal species, and now I know why. I've educated myself. I still don't like them because they tear their prey apart and eat it alive. Most animals at least kill something before they eat it, but it's like, oh my god, no. I would have compassion for those animals too. Luckily for them, they're a primate. Nobody eats their flesh. Well, some people do, but most people don't, and they're not gonna catch them in like traps. So it was one of those ethical things where Odin was like, where are your ethics? I want to see. And he says, if you don't show me where your ethics are, I'm done talking to you. And he was serious. He will walk away. So I cried, and I cried buckets, and I won't give you a link because it is really upsetting, but the guy didn't do it to guilt anyone into signing. He wanted people to see what this looks like when these animals are caught. And part of me is hardened because I grew up in hunting, trapping, farming community, and I know you can't sit there and cry buckets and be a successful farmer. Unless you're like a wolf farmer or something, you can't sit there and cry buckets every time you have to harvest or whatever, call the herd or whatever. But you also can't be so blatantly cruel that you come up with the cruelest method possible to catch an animal or to kill an animal either. There has to be that respect for that which you're using. If you're going to use a fur-bearing animal, you have to have enough respect to kill the animal as quickly and humanely as possible. And these traps, by the way, kind of snuck through. They're not considered a commercial trap. That's why they're legal, even though most commercial places like Cabela's and everything will sell you snares, and that's what they're for. They're not sunshine and roses. They're really, it takes the animal a very long time to die from these. And so they are a loophole, but they're not considered by the ethics of trapping and hunting. It's supposed to be a humane, swift death. There's nothing in any kind of governmental thing that says, oh yeah, an animal should suffer as long as possible. That's groovy, man. In fact, send us footage. So I just figured I would share that experience with you because, you know, Odin can be very kind and very gentle, and he can be very harsh and unrelenting. But as soon as that was over, he was very kind. He's like, let's go look at pretty wolves now. So if you guys like what you see, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.